Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of May 26th through June 1st of 2025. All right, so this week, quite subtle astrologically, we have a new moon, which is going to be right in between Monday and Tuesday. So we'll say around Monday, Tuesday, a new beginning to the lunar month. As we do approach that, it is the ending of the current lunar month, and so it's a good time to let things complete and finalize before the new seeds are being planted early and mid part of this week. So good to listen, good to set some new intentions, and perhaps notice a little bit of momentum building throughout the week, as once we get to that same point next week, it will be much more of a manifestation and action-oriented phase of the lunar cycle, which will be the first quarter moon. So the new moon is going to be in grounded Taurus and true sidereal Taurus. This is all about cultivating our inner and outer resources, cultivating inner strength like self-worth, self-reliance, resourcefulness, our natural talents, our natural abilities, and externally things perhaps like the material world, more security, and nature as well. So with this, we do have a conjunction with Mercury, and this conjunction will go exact on Thursday, marking the halfway point of the Mercury and Sun cycle. And so this could be perhaps some insights, some shifts of perspectives, maybe a little bit challenging to work with, we'll talk about. And then the week does end on Sunday with Venus over Chiron, perhaps a new beginning with healing, and healing particularly in the context of relationships, and probably also in the realm of this Taurus kind of stuff, maybe in regards to the self-worth and self-value type of stuff that Venus often represents. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, May 26th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. Unfortunately, the mainstream does not use the actual placements of the planets, the actual size of the constellations. It's especially in the West, it's very much not relating to the sky at all now. So if you are noticing that the signs are different, definitely check out the link down below. For example, perhaps you're expecting me to say that the new moon is in Gemini, but here I'm saying it's Taurus, right? This kind of thing. Definitely check out the link for more information on using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. All right, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of a recap because we did have some sign changes last week with Mars going into Leo, and also Mercury going into Taurus as well. So again, coming into the week, we are ending the current lunar month. The new moon will be late Monday, early Tuesday for most of us. This is a time to do a reset and likely noticing new energy for the month up ahead. But as we approach that, again, completion, finalizing, this is the lowest energy of the lunar cycle, and it makes it much more conducive for things like turning a bit inward right now, finishing some things that needed to be finished up, and connecting to more spiritual and internal aspects of life just in general, and really doing a clearing because we need space for these new beginnings. But like I said, Mars has recently entered Leo last week, and so we do now have very likely much more proactive and assertive energy, much easier to express ourselves. But fundamentally, this is about putting more action and energy towards self-expression, expressing ourselves, doing more of what we love, creating more, perhaps having more fun, maybe more comedy, more playfulness, whatever it is that we feel like gives us fire, gives us passion, gives us love in life. This is a really good way of working with Mars here. So all in all, a much better placement for Mars to be in now than where he was in Cancer for many months. And now not only is that assertive energy easier to express, but we can put that towards these more expressive types of things, or as we say, matters of the heart that Leo represents. And Mercury has shifted into Taurus as well. Of course, part of this new moon, Mercury being activated with this does put an emphasis on this lunar month being about learning and communication, typically with Mercury, similar to what a Gemini new moon would be like. But again, it's all in grounded Taurus, so it's all about connecting more to those inner and outer resources. So while it is a good time to be curious, be interested, be flexible with Mercury so strongly involved, Mercury's placement in Taurus and the new moon's placement in Taurus really points towards a grounded mind, a steady mind, stopping to smell the roses, taking our time with things, being more resourceful with the mental resources or communicative resources that we have, taking our time also with communication. So it is a slower energy than perhaps Mercury is most comfortable with, as Mercury does tend to want to come out of the gates much faster. But again, it can be very constructive. And so here, connecting to that more grounding energy of life is absolutely fantastic. And there's still a lot of eccentric and innovative and progressive energy to work with Uranus, because this new moon will be very close to Uranus as well. Mercury just passed over Uranus. And this is all adding to what can be a very innovative, forward-thinking, and visionary energy that's certainly part of, already has been an effect that's been great to utilize, but certainly part of the new month as well. And then lastly here, Venus is still in Pisces. We'll still be finishing Pisces, I think, going into Aries next week. Let's see, sometime around June 8th, the end of next week, early the following week. But anyway, still in Pisces. Venus is about what we value and what we enjoy in life. And, this has been for many months with her retrograde as well. Very important to be connecting to the more receptive qualities of life, things like going with the flow a little bit, focusing more on mental health and spiritual health. In the context of Venus, oftentimes relationships, and so practicing things like receptivity, mutual compassion and acceptance, perhaps even more spiritual connection in those relationships as well. But letting the connections of life go a little bit more into the ethers, have a little bit more flow, aligning things a little more with better mental health and spiritual health when it comes to the connections. This is all still very much in play with Venus in Pisces. All right, so that's really, what the week is about, because as you can see here, a lot of these aspects that you're seeing here are actually quite subtle, and the strong ones are already part of the new moon. So again, the new moon will be late Monday, early Tuesday. Coming into that, Mercury will be sextiling up to Neptune. There can be a little bit of easier to be a little receptive, especially with the day-to-day activities. Maybe noticing things a little more in flow or a little more inward can be great. Again, that's always good with the ending balsamic phase of the lunar cycle anyways, but it's good to see a little bit of support there from Neptune to do that. Now, the new moon, again, in Taurus is going to be conjunct Mercury. We see that a little bit later in the week. It's also going to be trining up to Pluto as well, and this will be activated particularly on Tuesday. So when we talk about new beginnings, we're really talking about empowerment here, because Pluto in such good harmony, trining up to the new moon, Pluto is about personal transformation and coming from Capricorn. So, this year has really been, and last year we would say starting this has really been the time to now transform the structures in our life. We're seeing this collectively, and it's also really good to be doing this personally as well. So, our systems and structures, what is it that we've built? What is it that we use as a foundation in our life that we can take out that wrecking ball and start to restructure things so they're more healthy, they're more balanced, they're more fulfilling. And anyways, while that's going on, we have a direct support with Pluto to do that. So Taurus, again, is about cultivating those resources, so the self-empowerment can really support this, being willing to make transformations and changes, being willing to dive deep within those inner resources to muster them up, and also to, again, make transformations in our life to help cultivate the outer resources as well. And of course, this can be money and abundance and that kind of stuff, but also, Taurus is fundamentally about natural resources, whatever they might be. So it's a great time for, say, getting in the kitchen, maybe doing some cooking, maybe doing some gardening or some agriculture, maybe getting, more into the earth, the nature, maybe hiking, camping, things that get us more into the sensual and aesthetic, massage, aromatherapy, right? This kind of stuff, getting more into the physical world, into the sensual world with Taurus is really what this is about. And Pluto, in very good support with that. We'll be trining up to Mercury on Tuesday, giving us perhaps a sense of empowered communication and empowered thinking as well. Just, part of that new moon, but perhaps very strongly there on Tuesday. So as we build a little bit more momentum with the lunar cycle, again, I just really want to stress that it's the lowest energy of the cycle. We are just slowly building momentum, but as we're doing that, we'll notice some forward movement slowly throughout the week here, and one of which will be Well, first of all, as we do get into Wednesday, late Wednesday and all day Thursday, the moon will be in Gemini. So that is going to place an emphasis on that communication and learning kind of stuff, right? We already see that activated with Mercury as part of the new moon and an aspect. But I do want to say that late Wednesday, all day Thursday, particularly good for that curiosity, for that interest, for that communication, for creating a little more flexibility in our life in general. As we slowly start this lunar cycle. But once we do get to the later part of Thursday and into Friday, Mercury will conjunct the Sun, and this marks the halfway point of the Mercury and Sun cycle. And so here it can be inherently challenging because Mercury is not seen in the sky. And so while we do see a lot of emphasis with, again, the mind and communication stuff, it can be drowned out by the Sun. The Sun is more of the expression. The Sun is more of the vital life force. The Sun is more of the self-esteem. This kind of stuff that is more about passion and expression can really drown out the mind and drown out the communication. So it's considered what we might call combust energy, where it's difficult to express the Mercury side of it. Perhaps it's going to require some extra intention to be aware of the thoughts, to be aware of the mind, to make sure that whatever it is we're communicating is, connected to, so that it isn't just that Sun non-thinking or reactionary expressive part. Now, both are, of course, equally important, and that's where we do see the tremendous benefits of this. This is actually a really good creative energy. This can be seen as Mercury going into the underworld, as Mercury is very far from the Earth with this placement, going into the underworld to gather information from the gods, so to speak. This is symbolic for our unconscious, Mercury going into our shadow, and from this can come new perspectives and new insights. Again, usually from perhaps more of the inner process, or just coming to us kind of from an insight, or what do you say, kind of like suddenly. So this is all great things to be aware of, and setting some intentions for, again, being willing to perhaps go into things, dive deep into things, and see what comes out the other side can be a great way of working with this, right? So being more mindful of the communication and mental stuff, but at the same time, being open to what arises, being willing to express them, maybe write things down, get very practical and tangible, because there can be this very valuable insight and perspective that can come out of this combust energy. All right, and then as we start to get into the weekend, so Friday and early Saturday, the moon will be in Cancer. This could be a couple days here for creating a protective environment, creating a safe and secure environment for ourselves and others. Sometimes themes around the past or home or personal life can be emphasized. Again, Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, the moon will shift into Leo, adding to that Mars expressiveness we were talking about before. So Sunday could be a particularly good day for that self-expression or playfulness or heart-centered energy. But Venus will be over Chiron on Sunday, and this does mark a yearly cycle with healing in the context of our connections. And so personal connections to life, what we value, what we enjoy, maybe some of these resources we're talking about with Taurus, a healing with this, a new chapter with this. But Venus also are external connections, such as through relationships, perhaps also healing here. So conjunctions are just like new moons, new beginnings, in the sense that they are the beginning of the cycle. And so it's usually more subtle. And although there can be new things emerging out of this, perhaps feeling more healed in our relationships, perhaps feeling more healed with our values, and maybe even some of the self-worth or inner resource stuff, taking time with it, slowly building that momentum with it. All right, but great intentions for all healing on Sunday, whether it's mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual. Can all be fantastic. All right, everyone. So it's really actually a subtle week. We talked about a lot here, but really just to keep it very simple, it's a new beginning to the lunar month. And as we approach basically Tuesday, we're ending the current month, and we want to complete things. This will create space for the new beginnings, slowly building momentum as we go through the week. And then around Tuesday of next week, we'll be in the more action and manifestation phase of the cycle. A lot of the aspects you're seeing here are what's already associated with the new moon, most notably the trine to Pluto, which is the sense of self-empowerment, which is supporting us, and we could say perhaps particularly on Tuesday, and the conjunction with Mercury and the Sun, which goes exact Thursday and Friday. Again, a little bit of a challenge there with the combustion. Mindfulness can be very helpful, but again, being aware of some new perspectives can really be fantastic out of this. And again, seeing it as it's a great lunar cycle, a great month to be, open to learning, being more flexible, being more adaptive. I think that's something that Mercury always helps us with there. And then, of course, at the very end of the week on Sunday, a new chapter with healing our connections in life. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Be sure to stay tuned for the live stream. We're going to go live here in just a couple hours, actually, maybe even just an hour after this upload. It's every Sunday at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time of the Americas. Definitely join us for that. We go deeper into the weekly forecast, and of course, we also cover other things and Q&As and questions and really getting a different perspective from the community as a whole. So definitely join us for that, but have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.